Good day and welcome to Big Bad Tech. I'm your instructor Jim Pytel, and today we'll learn to install an external speed potentiometer and configure the Omron 3G3JX-AE004 motor drive for remote speed control. Additionally, we'll learn to monitor and program default rotational direction. This lecture is predicated on the assumption the viewer has watched the Programming the Omron 3G3JX-AE004 motor drive for direct operation lecture available at the Big Bad Tech channel. If you haven't watched this lecture yet or only dimly recall its contents, please take the time to do so now. Additionally, since we'll be dealing with this particular manufacturer's parameter programming process and navigation within this motor drive's decision tree, it may help to download the associated datasheet and/or user manual. In the previous application examples featuring the Omron 3G3JX-AE004 motor drive, we use the frequency adjustment knob in the digital operator group to directly vary excitation frequency. While suitable for some applications, other applications may necessitate control of rotational speed at different remote locations using an external speed potentiometer. First, we need to wire up the speed potentiometer to the appropriate accessory terminals underneath the removable faceplate. The 5 terminals comprising the frequency reference group, AM, FS, FV, FI, and FC, are on the far left-hand side of the larger row of terminals. This group includes inputs and outputs, only 3 of which are pertinent to our present application. As indicated in the standard connection diagram, FS, FV, and FC are meant to be input connections for the external speed potentiometer used to provide an analog voltage input signal proportional to the desired frequency input. FS is the internal frequency reference, positive 10-volt DC source. FC is the frequency reference common. FV is the variable frequency reference input. As position of the speed potentiometer is changed, so too will the analog voltage input signal at the FV terminal. The other terminals in the frequency reference group, FI and AM, will not be used at this time. However, since we're right here, we should identify and review them. FI is an alternative frequency reference input that rather than using an analog voltage signal from 0 to 10 volts, it makes use of an analog current input from 4 to 20 milliamperes. AM, in contrast, is an output known as the analog monitor output. Depending upon the program function, the AM terminal can provide a proportional representation of either the frequency or current output by the drive. We'll start by wiring the C terminal of the external speed potentiometer to the common FC terminal, the A terminal to the positive 10-volt source FS, and the adjustable B terminal to the analog voltage input FV. We now need to energize and program the motor drive to recognize and respond to this external remote input, rather than the default direct control of excitation frequency provided by the frequency adjustment knob in the digital operator group. Before making use of the Omron 3G3JX-AE004 motor drive, we'll initialize the drive to a default state and clear any errors using the initialization and protection parameter B084. Then we'll program it to recognize a 200-watt motor with a nominal rotational speed of 1800 RPM using the motor settings parameters H003 and H004. This start state establishes a 60 Hz base frequency, a 60 Hz maximum frequency, forward default rotation, a linear volts per hertz ratio, a 10-second linear acceleration time, and a 10-second linear deceleration time, among other properties. This motor drive is now ready for today's activities. Now, we need to program the motor drive to recognize and respond to the external speed potentiometer analog voltage input. Extended function parameter A001, frequency reference selection, has available several options. 00, the default setting, is the frequency adjustment knob in the digital operator group. 01 is the FV terminal input. This is the one we want to select today. 02 is a pre-programmed starting frequency saved in the F001 output frequency setting entry. 03 is over a Modbus communication channel. And finally, 10 is a more complicated frequency operation result. Let's navigate to parameter A001, frequency reference selection. Select mode, increment from the default 00 selection to 01, FV terminal input, then select enter to save it. This motor drive has now been programmed to recognize and respond to the external remote analog voltage input.